Hey, what's up, everybody? Chad Calek here, and welcome back to the In a Crowded Room podcast, where on this episode, as promised, I have conversed quite a bit with Daniel David Skyfall. And I'm going to share with you some of the things that he had to share with me, which were extremely interesting, as they always are when I get the opportunity to converse with Mr. Skyfall. Before I do that, I want to thank all of you for the messages about the fires out here and the well wishes and the ongoing concern that you guys have expressed. Things got really, really crazy last night. I'll tell you how close we came to evacuating. Literally, the evacuation order ended on the street next to me, meaning we were under the warning, but the mandatory order, like the block that it stopped on, was my neighbor one block over. So we packed all of our things up. That's the only reason this podcast is actually out late tonight instead of earlier today, because we had our bag ready to go and all that. Pretty scary. Usually, like I said, the media loves to overhype things. This is the real deal. This is really bad. And I feel for the people that have lost so much. And there's a lot of people. I mean, this isn't like a couple hundred people lost their houses. I mean, thousands and thousands of people are displaced right now. So God bless them. Prayers to all of them. And right now they're dealing with the next kind of phase of this. And let me point this out too. The fires are still going. There's more evacuation orders now in other areas that the fire's burning to. But the newest thing, the newest problem, I knew this would be coming. This is absolutely disgusting. The newest problem now that people are dealing with is people stealing shit. And people just going through people's stuff, because you have thousands and thousands of homes that have been burnt to the ground, but there are homes that got lucky and made it, and people had to leave and they're not back in that neighborhood yet, and people are going through their homes and just helping themselves to their shit, which is unbelievable that someone could do that someone would look at this situation as an opportunity and not a tragedy. But unfortunately, there's a yin and yang to everything in life, and there's plenty of stories of people doing all they can to help and to offer services. But I guess that also comes with some negative stories as well. So much love to all of you guys for all your prayers, all of your well wishes, for everybody for checking in on me. It really honestly matters to me. And like I said, continued prayers to everybody else who is currently battling through this situation. I will keep you guys up to speed with everything on this podcast as well. Hopefully, sooner than later, this thing turns around. But right now, yeah, it's crazy. So with that being said, let's talk about Skyfall. To those of you that are just now following me, if you're unfamiliar with who Daniel David Skyfall is, well, first I just would invite you to go and watch To Face the Gray. That really explains in great detail who Daniel David Skyfall is. But in a nutshell, it is an individual who got a hold of me all the way back in 2017. And they had a tremendous amount of evidence that they wanted to share with me. But there was this immense story that, I guess in a nutshell, was the history of the interactions between extraterrestrials and humankind. And it started in a very specific place in history, and it really kind of led directly up to what Craig filmed in Australia, Sir No Face, and what exactly it was And, whenever you get messages, and I get them a lot from people that claim to have the answers to everything, and that is usually one of the first things that turns me off. It's kind of like, if I claim to be a wise man, it surely means that I don't know. Whenever I hear somebody tell me they have all the answers, I'm always like, okay, here we go. Not that Skyfall did that, but Skyfall was very, very sure about a lot of things. And I was intrigued by the length of the information he sent me and the detail, the unbelievable amount of detail that he had. It just made me feel like there's more to this than just some fan of ufology. And after looking into it more and more and more, I started to really think, man, there might be something here. And as you guys know, in the film, I finally decided to take the main parts of his information, the story that he gave me, and lay it out and piece it all together and actually lay it out. So from start to finish, you could watch the story unfold as he laid it out to me. Now, he claimed that, I'm saying he, it could be a she, I don't know if it's a girl or a guy, I'm just saying he out of habit, but he claimed that he was a counterintelligence, basically a black hat, agent for a legacy program, that his job was to pretty much sow disinformation. And basically, he thought he was doing it for a noble cause. And when some information became available to him that painted a different picture, at some point he decided to step away. And he wanted people to know what was going on and what was coming down the pipe. Now, for those of you that have followed me, since at least 2016, you'll know when Skyfall came into my life because, as you guys all know, I started posting about him on my Facebook page before the movie ever came out, and started talking about this Skyfall. And, I gave Skyfall a lot of shit in the beginning, and, just kept basically accusing him of, trying to use me. Because I kept saying, look, if you're a disinformation agent, that's what you did. Who's to say you're not doing that to me right now? And he still could be. Listen, I want to make this clear. Before I talk about everything we talked about, these are his thoughts. There's some of it that I still can't wrap my head around. And there have been many things that we have just flat on disagreed about. But at some point I finally got to a point where I was like, hey, listen, if you have this inside information, or if you're connected to people, because he says he no longer works for this legacy program, but he has trusted contacts that still do. And these trusted contacts are working from the inside to try to get this message out. And So anyways, I basically said to him, if you're, who you are, say you are, and you have these connections, then you got to give me some predictions. You got to tell me what's coming, and I got to see some of those things happen before I believe anything. And so he sent me a list of things that he was saying were in fact coming. And I started posting those things online. And he was very specific, and I'm talking months and months before these things would happen. He would say what's going to happen. And again, if you follow me, especially on my Facebook, you guys know how crazy this got. Like, he was saying things like, next month, the Navy is going to enact a new protocol for, UAP reporting. And like, it would happen. He'd be like, the next month, these major, news outlets are going to start publishing stories all the time about UAPs. And this is why. And it's crazy now because now it's like mainstream. But remember when it wasn't, okay? Remember when you couldn't get a story online, period, at any major network about UAPs. And he was just calling them out by network often. The big New York Times story, he called that. He said, he didn't say the New York Times, but he said there is going to be a major newspaper outlet that's well respected, that's going to have a bombshell story that comes out. And bang, it happened like 3 weeks after he said that. 3 weeks or a month. And yeah, so anyways, it just went on and on and on. It got incredibly detailed. And if you go back, as many of you point out often in the comments and in your messages that you send to me, if you go back and look at the entire layout of his predictions through Two-Face the Gray and through Phantom Rider, it is unbelievable how accurate it is, right down to the things that are happening right now, which we're going to get into. When he first gave me his predictions, I remember talking to Justin about this, and I said, listen, man, if this guy's 50% accurate, 50, I'll be impressed, because, I can't predict what I'm going to do, in 2 weeks, much less like 6 months from now. So if he has any level of accuracy here, this is going to be incredible. The only thing, and this is really crazy how this all played out, his accuracy level was like 98%. I mean, right down to crazy things like his name being Skyfall, which, like I said, dare I say, that's not his Christian name. But, like, at that time, if you remember when there was this nuclear explosion in Russia that happened, and everybody knew it, and it made the news, and, Putin denounced it and tried to play it down, but the footage was there. You could see the footage of this nuke going off, and they proved it through all the nuclear fallout and all this stuff. And I was asking Skyfall where he got his name, and the name Skyfall, because I believe it's a 007 movie or something, and I was kind of laughing about that. And, Putin comes out and basically says the name of the bombs that were dropped, or the bombs that, basically went off, the nuke that accidentally went off over in Siberia, was a warhead called Skyfall, which was, hilarious, because he had said to me that the Skyfall name had nothing to do, with the James Bond thing. And he was talking to me so much about, nuclear fallout and the nuclear war and the nuclear age, and how important that all was to, this UFO UAP interactions. And it was just things like that that were happening that were, just gave me chills, the things that he was doing and how accurate he was with things and how connected he seemed to be to all this stuff. So yeah, it was really fascinating. But the only thing that he missed on, and in a roundabout way he didn't, is he predicted that Trump would win a second term. And when he did, that Trump would be the president that delivered the, ladies and gentlemen, or people of the world, we are not alone. Like that moment that we're all waiting for. And the reported globalists, right? He refers to them as the energy elite, meaning those that run, global oil, natural gas, coal, like the dinosaur energy system that we're all going to run out of here in 50 years, but don't want change. They don't want us using alternative fuels. Those guys, and the industrial military complex. It says the globalists are comprised of the energy elite and the industrial military complex. That's who is running things. And by the way, Skyfall, just to clear that up, the actual name of Skyfall is referenced, his reference is an actual drilling accident that he claimed that occurred and had footage of, where this oil company was drilling too deep. And they got into like the salt oil or something. It's all in the documentary. And basically they dug too deep. And they dug so deep, they hit a layer that was basically bleeding this incredibly poisonous gas into the air, that when this gas came out of the ground and hit the upper stratosphere, it turned to stone. And the proof of this was that it began raining stones. And this was referred to as Skyfall. And he had footage of that, too, of it raining rocks, which is crazy. Anyways, there's a lot there. I know everything I'm talking about right now probably seems all over the place. That's why I'm just suggesting it would be a lot easier if you don't know who Skyfall is to just go watch Two-Face the Gray and Phantom Rider. Now, my conversations with him are not all the time. There is a way that I've described before that's very long and not worth going over again. But there's a way that I contact him and he contacts me that is really weird. And I don't understand how he does it. It's through email, but he's clearly a hacker with skills that are badass. But it's a really unique way of doing it. So someone in the comments was like, hey, can I have Skyfall's information? Well, I think if I did that, I don't believe he would ever talk to me again. So I have urged him relentlessly to come forward, especially when all the, quote, whistleblowers got together in Congress. I was like, hey, look, there's, new whistleblower laws and everything. Are you going to come forward now? You should really come forward. Because I think he has the most credible stuff that I've heard, and that's just being factual. And, he was the one who said to me, he was like, those aren't whistleblowers, man. Like none of those guys, like he was the one who stated his opinion that he allegedly believed that the people that were coming forward, at least several of them that he indicated, were in fact disinformation agents that were doing their job. And, he was also the one who pointed out to me that real actual whistleblowers don't get to do podcasts and roam around and, write books and do all this stuff. Edward Snowden is a whistleblower. He's still in Russia right now. Chelsea Manning, who was in Gitmo, that's a whistleblower. And he, he was like, not happening, not happening. Julian Assange was a whistleblower. He was arrested for how long after living inside, the embassy. So he doesn't trust it, period. So I haven't spoke to him in a while. And a lot of it was because my last 2 years of my life wasn't about that. I was trying to avoid that. I was trying to heal and get better. But when all this really started kicking up a couple months ago, I was like, I really do need to see what's going on. And then in the last month was a drone thing. So I finally got a hold of him. And again, we've gone back and forth over several emails. And I'm just going to try to paraphrase the things that he said that he's comfortable with me relating. Because there were some things that he did want related, or at least his thoughts. Again, I want to be clear, these are his thoughts. These are his opinions. They're alleged. I don't know how factual any of it is. But one of the first things he did say to me is, right now is a really, really crucial time, and to be really careful in regards to basically people are listening. And that was warning to all of us, not just like me, Chad Calek, but just to anybody that's involved with this, UFO narrative, this story, anyone who's online looking for stuff, looking for videos, looking for evidence, anybody, that just anything, there are watchful ears and eyes right now that are monitoring what's going on online. And just what's going on, period, because they can listen through anything. And, a lot of that is because this disclosure, according to Skyfall, we are into, well into the disclosure plan of what Skyfall believes is going to be, a fake alien invasion. He has different ideas as to what that ultimately will be, but basically the first thing he said to me was just, listen, you need to be really careful if you're going to get head to toe in this again. People are listening, people are watching, and they're taking stock in this. There's a way they want it to go down. And I pretty much just said, okay, I don't want to get back into all this. I'm not going to allow myself to get into all this to the level that I was. I don't want anything to do with it as far as, trying to play some kind of role in breaking some new news story about disclosure. We did that. I think everybody knows something is going on, and it's very obvious to the world right now. And if we played a role in doing that, then that's great. No need for me to, have my shit being hacked every day. I mean, the amount, as you guys saw, again, in Phantom Rider and, towards the end of Two-Face the Gray, the amount of bizarre shit that we had to deal with, not just on our computers, but at our home, our car, our house, our area. It was just one of the most uncomfortable times of my life. And I don't want to go back there. And I expressed this to him as well. So I asked him about the drones. I said, are these our drones, or are there actual alien drones that they're following? Are these just people looking up? And his overall viewpoint in general on all of it, he said, you got to look big picture. He's, that it's all government. He said, all the drones, he said 100% of it, it's all our stuff. Meaning the government of the United States, but other governments as well. Whatever this cabal is, it's all our stuff. He said, and it's not about, oh God, he got very long-winded about this. To paraphrase it, basically, you don't have to tell someone that's, okay, if I took you guys to a haunted house, and the whole way there, I kept saying, man, this place, allegedly, it's really, really haunted. It's really haunted. People say they have experiences of ghosts all the time, and I just tell you over and over again how haunted this building is. Then we show up, and I say to you, I don't really believe in ghosts, but let's go check this out. And then we go into the building, and a bunch of weird stuff happens, and then we leave, and I look at you and go, I don't know what happened. I don't know what that weird stuff was. Strange. And I leave. Then, your natural response would be, well, Jesus, it's ghosts. What do you mean? We talked the whole time about how the place was allegedly haunted. Then we had weird stuff happen. So it's ghosts. Kind of like the same thing is going on with the drones. You have all these hearings and all this UFO stuff go on. And the government, all these people come forward and say, could be aliens, could be aliens, could be aliens. And then you flood the skies with all these, drones and flying objects. And then you say, well, we don't know what they are, but, we don't know where they're going. We don't know where they're from, but we think you're safe. What is the public naturally going to say? They're naturally going to go, well, look, we think, maybe it could be alien stuff. Maybe it could be, extraterrestrials. I mean, it's basically a conditioned belief. He's saying all these things are to condition belief, where we just accept. Because it's still, when you say extraterrestrials have invaded, that is a massive thought. It's a massive thought to swallow, right? But if you slowly massage in a theology over time through events, then it becomes not such a massive thought. It becomes a semi-believable thought. And then pretty soon it's just believable. So what he's saying is that beyond these drones, just in general, what they want right now is to just sow fear, to create fear in general and instability. Because whenever there's fear and instability, people have a natural desire, I'm talking about the public at large, maybe not you individually, but for someone to make it better, right? And that's what they want. They want a one world government according to him. They want everybody to feel like, man, this is a crazy time. This is uncomfortable. There's extraterrestrials are coming, to Earth. They've always been here. We don't know what they're going to be doing. And just in general, times are really crazy. Even he was talking about how even stuff because I told him about the fires raging in LA. Of course, he knew about it. And he was saying stuff like this indirectly only plays into the story. And I was like, how so? And he goes, just because it's more instability. It's more things that you've never seen before. So it gets you conspiratorially minded. I guarantee you there will be people, I haven't done it, but there will be people that wonder if these fires started because of aliens. Or if these fires started because of things, visiting us. All of these things create instability. And, the reason they want that instability is because the one world government that they want to put together would basically be, okay, listen, We're all together. We got you. It's all good. And all of this, he said too, is about also, financially, of just being able to drain, the public for as much money as possible to put into, the industrial military complex, which, as he pointed out to me, which I totally agree with this aspect of it, how crazy is it that, and this is just me talking right now, that we spend 10 times the amount on our industrial military complex budget than the next 10 countries combined. And the first thing we started hearing from Congress and from everybody else is, oh, we're just behind China on the drones, by like at least a decade. We need a program and more money to spend on these drones. I mean, they've already started ringing that bell of saying we need more money. We need more money. But basically what he's saying, again, to sum this aspect of it up, is that all of this is part of the overall process of this fake disclosure, and to get people feeling completely uncomfortable, to get people having fear of the unknown, so that should the actual aliens ever show up and want to bring things like new technology to us, new power to us, that everybody will fear them because they'll be conditioned to fear them. That's why there's such a UFO narrative going on right now, that they're dangerous, right? That's all we've heard from everybody in Congress. This is a threat. This is a threat. This is a threat. They're flying in our airspace. They can hit us anytime. We already heard right away, which he pointed this out right away too, the nuclear thing. Right away it was like, oh, it could be, they're looking for nukes. They're looking for nukes. That's what's going on. It's a nuclear thing. All of this stuff, is fear. So if these things actually showed up in something that was flying around, we looked at it, the idea is that we'd be like, oh, that's not ours? Well, when we say it's not ours, just right now think about this. When we say it's not ours and it's flying in the air, what is the natural association that you get when you say that right now? You get danger. It's not us and it's flying in the air and it's got blink. Oh, it could be dangerous. But yet, if we look at the facts, if these things have been around historically since the 30s or 40s, or way back to the beginning of time for that matter, there's no record of them attacking us, destroying us, or anything. It's a completely unfounded fear. But it's not when fear and instability is massaged in. And that's what he's saying pretty much all of this is. I'm just putting this into like I said, a paraphrased nutshell. But essentially he's saying that it's all us. All the drones are us. Now, again, you guys know I was leaning towards it could possibly be legitimate drones or legitimate UAPs, and our drones are tracking those, and we're not seeing the actual UAPs. And again, this is quite a stretch, I get, but I was thinking this would make sense. This would punch all the boxes as far as everything the government was telling us that time. But he's saying no. It is all about just another layer of massaging in fear of anything flying around in the sky that we can identify. That's what's going on according to him. But one thing I did find really interesting also is I started talking about this one world government thing, and the fact that he had said that Trump would win a second term, which he pointed out Trump did win a second term, but he admitted that when Biden won, he had allegedly, heard that part of that was because when we moved to a one world government, that there would essentially be a single, I don't want to use the word king or premier, but we'll call it a premier. There'd be one premier of the one world leader of the planet, but the planet would be sectioned off into areas, large, new, basically countries that would encompass all of the current countries that we have right now, and there would be different presidents of those 3 or 4 large countries now that made up the world, right? And one leader above them. It'd be really easy to call bullshit on all of that, right? It'd be super easy to call bullshit on all of that and say, this is just all crazy, dude. Like, there's going to be one world leader, and then there's going to be, 3 or 4 that below that world leader that actually run these large areas. And he said, yes, and that Trump was going to run the Americas. And he said this 5 years ago, or 4 years ago when Biden took over. And what's crazy is Trump is talking about buying Greenland, making Canada, the 51st state. He even mentioned it, the other day about, finding a way to include Mexico. Wanted to change the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of the Americas. And out of all of them, the only one that really makes sense to me is Mexico, because the cartels have gotten stronger. This is me talking now. The cartels have gotten stronger than the government there. So if you take over the government, if you take over the cartels and take them out, you're going to pretty much have to run the country. And that would pretty much make them a part of America and be a way to stop, the drugs flowing in like they are to a degree. If that's a real issue with Trump, we'll see. We can get lost in that podcast of what I think the drug world actually does for the American economy, which is a lot. But anyways, my point in all this is, Trump hasn't even taken office yet, and he's talking about expanding America pretty much from Greenland down through Mexico, which falls in line with the predictions that Skyfall is in fact talking about, which is super interesting to me. Super interesting, because I just didn't see that when Trump was on his first term. Did anybody see that coming? That he would want to make Canada our 51st state, buy Greenland, take over Mexico? None of that. And now, when he's back in, or he's not even officially in yet, and that's already on the agenda, which falls in line with, like I said, Skyfall's prediction, which really blew me away. I did ask him about this Stephen Greer thing, because if you don't know, Stephen Greer is saying that full disclosure that's going to change the world is going to happen in the month of January. Skyfall says the next 90 days are going to be defining. That's what he's hearing. He doesn't know specifically what Greer is going to do, or what his plans are. He's not in Greer's team, he says. He does say he has a connection with a member of his team, but he's not a part of his group. But he said there's going to be a lot of people that are going to be doing both, playing the role of the white hat and the black hat, which is why the government's listening so much right now. But he did say, in regard to what he knows, and from what he's heard from his connections in regard to the energy elite, and in regards to the industrial military complex, that the next 90 days are going to be incredibly intense. The last thing I wanted to share that I thought was super interesting is, he said that if you watch Two-Face the Gray and also in Phantom Rider, Skyfall's whole belief this entire time is that this alien presence is here, that it is under the water and it's in Antarctica. There are presences there, and they are in fact monitoring us. He firmly believes that there is a date that the government believes they know in which there's going to be a real alien intervention, call it invasion, but a time in which this alien presence plans on revealing themselves to the world, not allowing governments to do it, but when they plan on making us aware of them. And Skyfall alleges that our government believes they know when that time frame is going to be, which is why they are trying to build a distrust towards any presence that says they're alien before that day comes, because they do not want to give up the energy sources of the world right now, oil, gas, all that stuff. They do not want 0 point energy at all. And they don't want Americans to want it at all. It's also, you said why there's been a big push. This is something he talked about a lot. I should have made better notes for this. But he did say that there's a big push for religion right now, because the religious narrative goes completely against the alien narrative. Now, I don't think so, but there will be a large swath of people that believe extraterrestrial life, non-human intelligence, uh, is in fact evil. There are people that believe they are demons. I mean, there's a lot of that. Um, so, he stands by his belief that there is going to be a fake alien invasion designed to get us, mankind, to not want the help or support and to turn on this non-human intelligent alien race when they make themselves, um, I'm going to make us aware of them and their presence whenever this quote invasion will be. Um, and he says, yeah, so the next 90 days, major things are going to happen. I asked him what major things specifically on my end. He said, I don't know the exact things. All I know is that we're down the road in this process, and there's a lot of talk about how major events are going to start happening to basically sow fear and insecurity. I asked him, if you find out what those specific events are going to be, will you tell me? He said that he will, but he has not yet. So I don't know what those events are. I don't know what Dr. Greer's events are going to be. I don't know what he's talking about specifically. I know that, Skyfall alleges that, like I said, he alleges that the alien presence is in fact real. They are here. They are monitoring us. And we had a conversation about that too in regards to monitoring us. And I understood what he was saying. Basically, I was saying that I could see why, an alien race, especially if they seeded us or helped us advance, why they would want to help us get to just a better place in general with better technology and more peace and all that. And he basically just said, it's not good or bad. It's like in the sense that, and again, I'm paraphrasing because these are long messages we get into. Skyfall can be quite the writer, and I'm wordy as fuck. So, but basically what we're saying is that it's not a matter of good or bad. It's a matter of basically protecting life. Meaning, if tomorrow, me and all of you listening to this, if as mankind, we went to on safari in Africa, and for the first time ever, we discovered lions, right? And we're like, wow, look at those interesting creatures over there. And we watched lions and we followed them and we saw them fight with each other and we saw them kill and murder other species and eat them and eat each other and do all this shit. And we were like, wow, that's really interesting. This is what they do. And we'd be totally fine with them until suddenly some lion did something and our vehicle that we all drove there, say we all drove there in a big bus, now a lion does something that blows our vehicle apart. And we're like, whoa, what the fuck was that? And we start realizing that this species that we were just fine with everything it did, as long as it didn't affect us, suddenly it did something that blew our vehicle apart. And now we're like, geez, we got to figure out how we get out of here because of this thing. Oh, and by the way, if it blew that vehicle up, it could blow us up and kill us. Then suddenly we'd be like, you know what? Maybe we need to take a little closer look at these tigers, these lions here that have the ability now that we know to hurt us. And then we find out later on that these lions somehow have the ability to destroy a planet that we're on. Then suddenly we would care about what they do and we would want them to be in a different place, than they are. He said that's essentially what it is. We're basically creatures that they find interesting. They're like, wow, that's, here's these human beings and, they have these things that they do and they watch us and make sure basically that we're not going to do anything to affect them or to end, life beyond them. And he did say the advancement that we're making, that our nuclear power has, gone off the rails. Like if we knew how powerful our modern day nukes are that we're making, and if we knew the real dangers of AI, and how quickly this can get out of control. That, mankind has graduated from being man killers to planet killers, to potential galaxy killers. And they say that we're playing interdimensionally now. Um, and it's just, part of our process. So we're going to be a bigger issue to these alien species. That it's not so much whether or not they love us or hate us. It's about what are we capable of and what's the responsible thing to do. Um, Now, do I agree with that? I don't know. I don't know. I don't know how Skyfall can know what they think. That's why I pause. That's what I'm saying. We don't agree with everything, that he tells me. Like I told him, maybe I'm wishful thinking that I would want to believe they have some kind of connection to us, or I'm a believer that that mankind is seeded. I believe that. That's just my personal belief. Um, and he doesn't really seem. At least he's never fully confirmed that. I guess I've never asked him straight up if he feels that way. But I would think that they would have more of an interest in us beyond, what can we kill and what can we not. But maybe not. What does make sense is it's kind of like when you walk by the fire ants. You don't care about fire ants or what they do until they sting you. Then suddenly you kill them. Now you care. Now you kill them. So with the technology that we're playing around with right now, does it scare me? Yeah, it does. It scares me. AI really scares the shit out of me. Realizing that we're on the brink of World War right now scares me. But if this all goes down, like Skyfall saying, that's the thing. This stuff keeps me up at night with him because there are times where everything Skyfall says lines up so well that I'm like, man, this has to be true. And then there are other times where I'm like, this is crazy. Like, none of this can't be happening. Like, none of this can be true. But then things happen that, I remember when the war in the Ukraine broke out, and Skyfall predicted that there would be a Middle Eastern war, and that America would have to come in and try to be, the one to broker peace in this Middle Eastern war. And then shortly after that happens, he predicts that the real alien invasion is going to happen. And so when the Ukrainian war broke out, I messaged him and I said, hey, did you get your location wrong? And I was giving him a shit. I was like, is this Ukraine war? Is this the Middle Eastern war you were talking about? And he said, no. He said, no, this is not the war. It's going to be in the Middle East. I was like, huh, okay. And then a couple years later, it happened. And I realized the Middle East has always had conflict going on, but what just occurred was pretty profound, and certainly sent the Middle East into war. So, anyways, that is what is going on. Again, I did my best to paraphrase. I hope it's not all over the place. It's just hard too because we talk about a lot back and forth, and there's some stuff that I'm just not comfortable saying because I just don't want to get back into this world and too deep beyond any of the stuff that I've said. And again, everything I've said, these are his opinions, the things that he thinks and he alleges. I don't know any of these things to be true. I'm just letting you know what he says, and just like you, I have to watch history play out to see if it's accurate or not. But what I know at this point, and this is my honest to God opinion, nobody has been more accurate than Daniel David Skyfall. Nobody. And if there's somebody else that's been more accurate, you tell me who they are. Because I haven't seen it. I have not seen it. So let me know what you guys think. I would love to hear your thoughts on all of this. It's multi-layered, it's complex, and I think that's what makes a lot of this really difficult to wrap your head around. There's a lot of layers to it, and I don't think any of us can deny that our government has been pushing us towards this alien thing hard, for a reason. It hasn't gotten to the levels that it's gotten for no reason. So this Jersey thing, the drones, could it all be just the next step in the plan to massage in fear of things in the sky and discomfort by the thought of a life form of technology beyond our understanding? Could it just be the next stage in the fake alien invasion? Yeah, I'm sure. It sure could be. Anyways, I would love to know what you guys think. Um, Also, if you guys have not visited my Patreon page, if you enjoy this podcast, if you enjoy having more episodes on all the time, please, if you're able, consider becoming a patron and supporting this page. I can tell you right now, this episode will absolutely get demonetized. Anytime you get into stuff like this, they demonetize you. And, you guys can definitely keep the show going and help me reach my goals, help me bring on an editor. That's the quickest way to make sure we get 5-6 episodes out a week. And I have some goals with this podcast. I want to do not only storytelling, but I want to do active investigation podcasts that involve going mobile. And these are all goals down the road, but you can help me reach those goals by visiting our Patreon, which is in the description box below. And I will be back tomorrow with another episode of the In a Crowded Room podcast. Much love and all the best.